Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. Looking a bit windswept. Apologies, just been to the shop. I'm Si, and we're going to have a little bit of a slightly different show, as I feel like we've talked to absolute death the certain subjects. So we're just going to have a little bit of fun, and we'll just talk about whatever, answer a few questions for the next half an hour or so. So I was hoping to do a video on Des Buckingham. He's the one which I haven't had the chance to get round to yet. But excuse me. What I will do is with Buckingham, I think I'm not going to have time to record it and edit it and stuff, so I might talk about him a bit this evening because I've done all the scripting and stuff for it. It was just finding the time to record it and edit it. I would like to think that we'll get an announcement tomorrow, but maybe I'll see if I can record it in the morning. I don't know. But what we do have coming up this week, on Thursday morning, we have a members breakfast show at 10 a.m. for you. A little bit of a treat. And we've got lots of stuff. We'll have some, as always, 7 days a week. Cardiff City talk, conversations. The manager conversation is the conversation at the moment. I saw a lot of people saying like, "Oh, it's dragging on, it's dragging on." It feels like it's dragging on because our season was over so early, really. Like for the moment, Rhys was sacked. Like our season was effectively over. Like it was going to be very difficult for Aaron Ramsey to do anything in 3 games. Obviously, we were down before the last game of the season, so it just felt like our season finished very early. But like, if you think about it logically, the club had to wait until this Sunday, really. Nathan Jones was in the playoff final, had to wait to see if he won or lost. Obviously, once he won, he became probably financially unattainable, I would imagine. Barry Murphy's contract ran out this weekend at Leicester. And that's if there's no, straight away there, I've seen a few people mention the bookies. If you remember going back to Errol Bullitt, he was not in the bookie shortlist whatsoever. And then he swooped in at the last minute. And I just think, look, for me, like it was always going to be this week. I think they've said publicly, I think that they'll have it done before the end of May. And to be honest with you, like for me, I just think I said to my friend yesterday that tomorrow was the day because... I said to my friend last week that I felt like Wednesday of this week was the day, simply because you had the season finishing Sunday, meeting Monday, Tuesday, Han will make his decision. They'll pass it over to whoever. Then the lucky candidate, if you call them that, will make their decision. Then Wednesday morning, contract signing, blah, blah, Wednesday afternoon, announcement. That was kind of my thinking. But that's pure guesswork. Like, it could be anything. What I would say is if we get into the weekend and we still haven't had an announcement, then I think then you can have a bit of apprehension. I think up until now, like just saw someone say that they think they've been pretty proactive. I mean, my worry was that they would wait until now to start looking. So they would wait for the playoffs to be done and dusted and then start doing the whole process. So in one way, you could say, yeah, they've been relatively proactive, depending on how you look at it. Like, it's mad to me because, I look at the list of managers and who've been linked and spoken to and all these different things. And I think, God, there's some good managers on that list. And then there's some exciting young managers on that list. And then there's some which I'm not so excited about, It's mad to me that, like, certainly, he doesn't seem like he was ever in the running, but like he was in there at some point. He's like Ian Holloway, like that's mad to me. Like, but I guess they wanted to cover all bases. So what can you do? It's very up and down. Like I know people who were absolutely adamant that last week that Ian Everett was coming in. Obviously, he shot to the front of the line at the bookies on the Monday. I think I put a video out on Monday or Tuesday. And there's other people who are like convinced that he's not. And I don't think he's the right guy in a lot of ways. But there is a few positives that I could give or potentially give on Ian Evatt. One, he knows the league. Two, he's won promotion. He's won things, won trophies at the sort of lower end. I like his system. I like, he does sort of play like attacking football, plays two up front. And he won't take no messing, and he'd be like a rocket in that dressing room. And maybe that's what that dressing room needs, is someone to go and break some shit and not play to every whim of the players. I don't know. Like, I can't decide, but he wouldn't be my choice. But if he's the manager, I'll get behind him. As I've said previously, I've spoken to a few Bolton fans and a few people who've worked with him, and no one's got anything particularly positive to say about him. Ranges from not particularly positive to outright negative. And I'm just not sure, like, if that's what we need at the moment. Is it's kind of like that, like negative, toxic kind of personality. But then, as I say, maybe when you look at what we've been like the last few years on the football pitch, maybe that is what we need, is a bit of structure and a bit of discipline. And it's a weird one, isn't it? It's an interesting one. I understand why some people think he's a good, like on paper. I think particularly if you haven't done a lot of kind of research into him, or if you don't know about some of the issues that he's had with people and fans and clubs and stuff that he's been at, then on paper he looks like a good candidate. Like, he's won trophies, he's won promotion, he's been in that league. He plays good football. If you look at it just purely paper, there's a lot to like. For me, he's not the one. He's not the one. But I don't make the decision, do I? So it's not up to me. Des Buckingham is he's a fascinating one for me, because I think he does tick a lot of the boxes. Did a phenomenal job with Oxford, and like, you've only got to look at the reaction of some of those Oxford fans when he got sacked. Like, some of them didn't want him to go. I think he plays a good style of football. He's quite an experienced guy for such a young manager. He's been around he's been around the block a bit. And I don't mean that like he's had loads of clubs. He's had a lot of different varying coaching jobs and management jobs, which have taken him all over the world, really. He's done a bit in India, he's done a bit with New Zealand, and then obviously done his bit with Oxford. Comes across really like a nice bloke, speaks well. Tactically, as I say, plays a nice style of football. Got Oxford out of League One. So he ticks a lot of those boxes. Again, I was having a discussion with a friend of mine, and we've kind of both agreed. Our main worry with Buckingham is, like, Cardiff comes with a lot of pressure. And I think being the Oxford manager, he's very different. And there's no disrespect to Oxford whatsoever. It's just a very different feel, different job. And I'm not 100% sure whether he's the right guy, but again, I would get behind him 100%. And I wouldn't be disappointed if they announced that Des Buckingham was the manager. I wouldn't be like, oh, gutted. Like, I'd really, really be very happy with him. But I think it's it's a weird one with Buckingham, because I like a lot of what he does, but it's just a feeling that I've got with him rather than anything. Like, he ticks a lot of boxes. And again, some people will like him, some people won't. And at the end of the day, like, ultimately, it doesn't matter whether I like him or someone else doesn't or whatever. It's what they decide from the interview process. And if they decide he's the right guy, then I'm kind of happy to go with that. I think he ticks a lot of the right boxes, and I certainly prefer him to to Ian Evatt. Sorry, I was trying to read something about Des Buckingham. Yeah, I was trying to read. So Mumbai City was where he was he was brought in to modernise their side and get them playing football, and they ended up dominating the league and winning the title and broke a few records. He's quite flexible in his systems. He likes a 4-3-3, a 4-4-4, 2-2-2-2, among other things. He's very good with his positional awareness of his teams, and they have like quite a like positionally. He likes them to be quite fluid, and a lot of things to like about him, I think. And just looking at his Oxford record in the 23-24 season, he averaged just under 2 points, top 5 in League One for shot creating actions, goals from build-up play, third highest in the division. Defensive actions per 90 minutes was like 18.4. So even the statistics kind of back up what you see with the eye, is that he likes to dominate possession. He presses effectively. They score goals from well-constructed rotations and different phases of play and different ways of playing, and different. It's not all like set pieces, or it's not all this and that. He's quite flexible, so I think there's a lot to like about him. And I think again, you look at someone like Mark Harris, really came on, and the Des Buckingham really came on, and he's one of Bellamy's kind of like relied upon, trusted forwards now. He gets in ahead of Kiefer Moore a lot of the time, and I think yes, that's because of the profile of him, because Bellamy wants a certain type of profile. But there's no doubt that Mark Harrison improved drastically under Des Buckingham. I'm so sorry. My mind is all over the place at the moment. Right, let's get some questions. Whew. Scrolly. Bookies can't make up their mind, says Jonathan, between Buckingham and BBM. Lots of conflicting rumours, says Martin. Yeah, I think I don't think... I haven't heard that it's confirmed. I haven't heard that there's an announcement close, but that doesn't mean there's not. Like I said, they were really clever with Bullet. They managed to keep it out of everyone's, all the leaks, and they were able to kind of take everyone by surprise. This time around, there does seem to be a few more leaks and a few more reports and social media stuff, but I'm still hopeful that we might hear something tomorrow. We get to the weekend and we haven't named anyone, then plus I think it starts getting problematic, because so as I mentioned previously, in January I had spoken to someone who knows Ricky J. Jones and had said he was quite interested in coming down here in the summer, but he didn't want to come in January particularly, but he was open to it. I was going to do a video, like a scout report on him, a couple of weeks back, and then I didn't bother because it looked like he was going to Birmingham, so I kind of thought, oh no, I won't bother with that. And then I spoke to him today, and he's still open to it. He hasn't signed anything, and he's still open to it, although I think he would be too expensive now anyway for us, because I think he would cost a pretty penny in signing on fee and wages to stay in League One and not go to Birmingham. So I think it's unlikely, but he's on a free. But because we don't have a football structure and we don't have a manager, there is a risk that the more it drags on, there's more likelihood that we could miss out on some of these free signings. There's a free goalkeeper who I really think we should go for, Joel Pereira, who ironically played for Bolton as well. And I think it was Bolton. Off the top of my head, I might be wrong about that. It might have been someone else. But anyway, Joel Pereira, 28 years old, and I think he's an improvement on what we've got. He's free, good age, etc. But we haven't got a football structure. So you have this vicious circle whereby, at least if we had a structure in place, director of football, technical director, etc., that while they're looking for the manager, you could line up a few free transfers And even if you didn't get them completely signed in case the manager doesn't want them, you could get them ready. And I'm not sure that we've got the personnel and the staff in place to do that until the manager's sorted out. And that's a problem, because you would think that the best free transfers are going to go the quickest by law of averages, would you not? So that's bugging. And I think, like I said, if it goes into the weekend now, it's getting a bit more of an issue. Championship players are going to be coming back from their holidays, apart from the ones involved in the playoffs. And yeah, look, got to get moving. I understand why they had to wait for this weekend, but now they need to get moving and get it done so they can, because it's also whoever the manager is their coaches, their support staff, getting that all in place. Then speaking to the recruitment team and getting the plan and blah, 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 blah. Like, there's a whole process which takes time. And I just don't think that we can leave it too long to decide, because, yeah, but then equally, yes, you can't leave it too long to decide. And yes, they've been semi-proactive with it. But it's important to get the right man, or who they think is the right man. And for me, at the moment, like, of the four which seem to be left in Buckingham, Barry Murphy, Everett, and Ramsey, I'm kind of all right with all of them. Everett, I'm very much on the fence with, but the other three, I'm very much all right with. Like, if Buckingham's the manager, I'm very happy with that. Barry Murphy is the manager, I'm excited by that. Ramsey's the manager, I'm excited by that, because he'll bring it. Did have an interesting conversation with a friend today. So Aaron, according to reports, is like, part of his sort of reasons of what, if he wants it, he wants this and this, is he wants experienced coaches, because he saw what happened last week. I would assume he knows he's inexperienced, etc. So, but with Barry Murphy, would he be aware of what happened at the club last year? Be aware of the structure of the club, or lack of, and kind of go along with what they want him to have coaching wise? Because I think I said on Sunday, it's very important that if you do go with a kind of young, exciting option in a Barry Murphy or a Ramsey, it's important to get the right people with them and around them. So that was like one fear, but honestly, I'm pretty all right with all four. And maybe we'll see a late runner for it. You never know. There was a question I was going to go to. Steve says announcement tomorrow. Next joke. Yeah, I mean, it does feel like that, but I'm just guessing, mate. Jeff says Thursday's their normal press conference day. Yeah, could be, mate. I guess we'll have to wait and see and let it play out. Rhys says back to the shitty worm badge next season. Yeah, don't know why they don't keep that badge that they used last year. To be quite honest with you, I think everyone would prefer that. But there we go. Red worm, red seats need to go. Indeed. Bob Bank 27 says, I think it'll be a surprise like Bullet was. Maybe it'll be Tony Koskila, like someone said in the chat on Sunday. Played 2 games for Cardiff City back in the day, but he's actually doing all right as a manager in Scandinavia. So maybe he's the guy. Who was the other one? There was someone else. I mean, Ruben Sellers hasn't been mentioned barely at all, and I think that's interesting, because I know that he was there or thereabouts in terms of the short lists and stuff. So maybe he's one that could come in late. Or David Wagner's another one who I wouldn't want David Wagner personally, but I am surprised he hasn't been mentioned at all. But here we go. John says Buckingham or Barry Murphy would be fine. Aaron Ramsey as player assistant, and then a technical appointment such as Dave Jones, Tony Mowbray, or Alan Kirbishley. Premier League would be an interesting shout as like a director of football or similar. It's funny, man, because at one point a couple of days ago, it looked like it was between Barry Murphy, Ramsey, Nathan Jones, and Everett. And I was like, do you know what? If you could get Nathan Jones as the manager, Aaron Ramsey as the player assistant, and Barry Murphy as the technical director, you'd have a hell of a team. Just have a little combination. But I mean, it's never going to happen, of course, but it is what it is. Jonathan says Buckingham tactically tore Everett apart. Yeah, I mean, Buckingham's an excellent manager. So, very interested. Lewis says he's out to 10-1 on the betting now. Who's that, mate? Buckingham, Everett. Which one? You have to correct me. Martin says, will all the outside candidates want to bring full backroom staff? Yeah, I think so, mate. I think even Aaron Ramsey, I don't think, if Aaron gets it, I don't think you see the same coaching staff that he finished the season with. I think Chris Gunter would be with him, but I don't think the other two would be. I think that he would bring in a much more experienced coaching team with him for the job full time, because they had to throw that together real quick. And I think he would bring a much more experienced team with. Yeah, the few of you saying about the 125 badge. Matthew says, how close are you to announcing the next live event, mate? Not as close as I would have been like to, actually, mate. It's taking a bit of not a backward step as such, just waiting for a few things to fall out and a few things to work out behind the scenes. But it'll be soon enough, my friends, soon enough. Steve says, from the ones who are left, Buckingham as my vote. Yeah, couldn't disagree with him. Steve McPhail will be an excellent job as a sporting director type role. Martin says, my worry about Buckingham is he was a goalkeeper. Yeah, but look at what's his head? I thought someone else said, Steve just said there, Nuno's a keeper. I mean, yeah, Mourinho was never really a keeper. Yeah, and I kind of agree with that. Lewis says he thinks that there was only two managers who would make everyone happy, and that was Gary O'Neill and Nathan Jones. Everyone else, someone will complain. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think even Gary O'Neill, mate, I saw a few people sort of going, oh, he did a crap job in the Premier League. But, like, it depends what you define as a crap job. Like, I see people saying, someone said, well, Barry Murphy took Rochdale down, but he also kept him up on the smallest budget in the league for 2 seasons, playing good football. Like, eventually, he catches up or whatever. You know, Gary O'Neill was doing a wicked job at Bournemouth in the Premier League, but the Bournemouth owner wanted Areola, and I think that brave pick in a way from Areola to go and by the Bournemouth owner to go and get Areola has played off. But you could say Gary O'Neill set the groundwork for that, but for sure, if they wanted Gary O'Neill, they should have got him when they sacked Rhys, because that was definitely possible at that point. I do understand why they didn't, and it was one of them where you had to gamble and go, all right, we're going to go straight in with you because you're who you are, sort of thing. But yeah, and Nathan Jones, I agree with you. Most people, I think, would have been happy with him. He takes the experience and everything. But once Charlton got to the Championship, financially, it was going to be so difficult to get him out of there. It was going to be hard anyway because he's on a wedge. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. And there's so many people, like, you wouldn't believe, right? I've had, like, I reckon, like 6, 7, 8 people even the last 24 hours just messaging me going, it's this person. 100% I've been told is this person. And then like 5 minutes later, someone else will message me the same sort of thing, but saying someone else. So it's one of them, isn't it? Like there's so many names and people floating about. So you just gotta wait and see what happens. It's funny, you say that. Jonathan says, have Wrexham approached Ramsey and Rawls yet? They fit their profile. Mate, you joke about that. I wouldn't be shocked if they approach Ramsey if he doesn't get the manager's job. And on like a pay-as-you-play deal or something like that. Could have a busy summer, will Wrexham. Here they're sniffing about a few players. Ian says, Owen Goodman, who's on loan at Wimbledon, if we can buy him on a permanent, but he'd cost a bit, I think. Some good signings about if we move soon. Josh says, not really fussed on either Buckingham or Brian Barry Murphy systems. Desperate to see a manager who comes in for a fresh looking back three. Well, both of them have used back threes, mate. Like, and this is the other thing is like, so Barry Murphy in particular has used about three different systems in different jobs. It just depends, doesn't it? It depends. The players you got depends. I actually think our squad suits a kind of three at the back system, but especially with the young wing backs and stuff. But people will disagree or agree. Steve says, what's happening with the retained list? Yeah, so it's weird. The retained list, I believe, had to be in on a certain date, whatever that date was. I think it was about a week ago, but they don't have to be announced publicly. So as far as I know, we had to tell the EFL or whoever they've got to tell about the retained lists, but I don't think we're retaining any of them, to be honest. I'm trying to think who's on there. Yeah, I don't think we'll retain any of them. Like I exclude Ramsey and Rawls like slightly because of the managerial situation. Depends if Rawls will be on the coaching staff. Depends if Ramsey's going to carry on playing if he doesn't get the job. And yeah, but the others, I think they'll all go. Paul says, so what happens to Tom Hutton and Matt Bloxham? Are they still coaches with Purse back in the 21s? No idea, mate. I would assume that they would go back to their original roles because it was a temporary 3-game thing. So you'd think they would just go back to wherever it needs to go. Martin says, still believe Tan wants a manager who won't bring in a backroom staff. They've got to bring in a backroom staff, mate. There's simply no manager is going to take that without a backroom staff now, just because, even if it's Ramsey, he's made it clear he wants experienced staff. Same as, anyone else. They're all going to want their own coaching staff. It just is what it is. I just think now that weekend has passed, and go on, guys, don't start arguing in the chat. I don't want to have to start like muting people and stuff like that. Come on, you're all grown-ups. I'm too old to be your daddies. Bilbo Swaggins says, crazy how slow this club is. So, I kind of mentioned this earlier. I understand them giving it until this weekend because they wanted Nathan Jones. So they had to wait if they wanted him. As soon as Charlton lost, as soon as Charlton won, he's sort of out of the question. So then you'd like to think they'll move quite quickly now. And the other thing I said is, if you believe the list that is out there, so Buckingham, Barry Murphy, Everett, and Ramsey, they're all out of contract. So you haven't got to decide any compensation with them for their current jobs. And then second of all, I suppose it just depends on who they want as their coaches, I guess you could say. But it is what it is, isn't it? Graham says, still think it would be typical City to take all this time and have Ramsey. Don't think that's the worst choice, mate. Like I said, I don't think it's the worst choice. I don't think it's about and if they do pick Ramsey, because whatever their reasons are, the fact is they've looked elsewhere and no one's sold them enough on their CV or their interview or whatever that they've thought that he's the best person for the job. Now, whether he is or someone else is, we'll only find out in the long term. But yeah, Sellers has been in the mix. I haven't seen him be like really, really mentioned as like in the final few, but I mean that doesn't necessarily mean anything. They have to bring in their stuff, yeah. And I would keep, Gavin Ward. I would think he did a good job. Who else we got? Lewis says Ian Evatt. All right, yeah. You went back to 10-1, you mean? Yeah. Buckingham is into second favourite. Yeah, I heard that Ruben Sellers might be going to Borough, as Paul just said. But I wouldn't be shocked. Wouldn't be shocked if if Sellers just ended up being a manager and he'd be, just being the choice, wouldn't be shocked at all. Antonio Starry says Simic is leaving for the Red Bull clause. I did hear something about that today, but it's like second hand, so I wouldn't normally talk about it. But seeing as you brought it up, I did hear that he's looking to get out. Shame, but I also don't blame him for being frustrated, because ultimately he was signed, sent out on loan, come back, and he hasn't got a minute of football. So I do kind of understand him being frustrated. But as I think I said, I think it was the last game of the season or one of the shows right at the end of the season, and someone brought him up, and I said the best thing he could do is get his head down now, go and do like some one-on-one training with a coach somewhere, work on his finishing, his fitness, his strength, come back to the first day of pre-season and be stronger, faster, fitter, sharper, everything on that first training session. Just be weeks ahead of everyone else and make a point, make yourself undeniable. It's one of them, but sometimes I wonder, and this is not a knock on Simic, by the way, this is more a generality. I look at some young footballers these days in their sort of late teens, early 20s, and I just wonder if they've got the drive. They get so much so early, and they get mollycoddled and looked after like professionals from the age of 14, 15 in the academy systems, that I wonder if when they make it to 21's first team and they're getting decent money, like more money than most people earn in a month per week, it's like, have they still got, do they feel like they've already made it, But, and again, that's not directed at Simic, that's just a generality about young footballers. But that's what I would have liked to have seen him do. Paul Howell says the Welsh FA rate Buckingham very, very highly. Yes, they do, mate. He was in the, I'm not sure if he was in the top three, the final three for the Wales job with Bellamy and Henry, but he was certainly in the last couple of candidates. He was, he's very close to being down there. 2.7 million clause, apparently. Yeah. I mean, in fairness, if you're Cardiff and he hasn't played, and there's someone pays the clause, what you probably, you don't have a choice if it's a clause, I suppose, but I'm disappointed. I really was hoping he would come good this year. I was hoping that he was one who would, I was hoping that he would be one that would come good, and just a bit of a slow start. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, well, that would be nice, mate, wouldn't it? Rhys says, I hope whoever comes in gets told all the shit by Ramsey. Hopefully he doesn't need 6 months to see that Hobart Chambers, etc. I'm good enough. It's not even the so much the good enough thing. I really feel that this squad needs new voices, needs new senior players and new voices, new attitude, new everything. And it's one of the reasons why I quite like the idea of someone like Barry Murphy coming in, who's going to come in and expect really high standards, and he's going to bin off anyone who doesn't meet those standards, like, because he's a professional and he won't accept anything less than professionalism. But yeah, I guess it is what it is, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, they did, Rhys. There was one player who was offered a deal, but I think I've said a few times I'm not going to broadcast any of that because that's for him to say, innit? So the Bob Banks 27 says, "What's the FFP rules in League One?" So up until this summer, they were very, very lax. I think they are still a lot laxer than they are in the Championship. However, I believe they tied him up a little bit this summer. They've slightly changed him. I'll have a little Google now. Financial fair play is implemented through the Salary Cost Management Protocol, or otherwise known as SCMP, and this rule restricts clubs to spending no more than 60% of their total turnover on player-related costs. The SCMP is a specific set of rules set out for League One and League Two clubs. The turnover limit: clubs in League One can spend 60% of their revenue on player wages, transfer fees, and other related expenses. The clubs are assessed based on the financial accounts over a 12-month period. However, owner investment, new rules restrict how much an owner's investment can be spent on player-related costs. So that's the bit which has changed. I think up until last summer, or up until now, this summer, the owner could effectively put in what he wanted and spend it on players, I think. O'Dowd, there's a few of them with them. So Martin asks, is it true O'Dowd, Turnbull, and others have release clauses? They don't have release clauses, I believe. I think they've got relegation clauses, which is basically what you can, like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's not necessarily a set fee, but they're allowed to hear the offer regardless of if the club want to accept it, I think, is something like that. But on O'Dowd, that's a really interesting one. Would you be disappointed if we sold O'Dowd this year? I'm kind of caught in between. So part of me, I think, is absolutely comical and typical Cardiff City that we gave Callum Robinson, O'Dowd, and Alnwick 3-year deals when we did. I just do not understand it. Don't understand the timing of it. Don't understand the logic of it. But whatever. O'Dowd, as a personality, off the field, everything like that, was absolutely exemplary this year, and his form was decent. However, he only wants to play left back. He doesn't want to play on the left side of midfield or left wing. And I'm not sure if I want him as a left back. If a bid came in, I might accept it. And as I said, even though I don't include him in the senior voices that need to be changed because of the way he's behaved has been exemplary, I actually think that I probably would sell, because he's one you can get some money for, and you've already got Joel Bagan and Louis Giles, and you can bring in some other players. So yeah, it's the loss of revenue that's going to kill us, I think. So Josh says, if the club really wanted Jones, then go out and get him. He stated it's his dream job. He'd leave Charlton on high, giving a manager a whole summer to work with the team, swings and roundabouts. So it's not as easy as that, mate. Nathan Jones is on a massive, and I mean massive wage at Charlton. I'm not going to broadcast what it is, but it is massive for a League One manager. So you got to pay like whatever he's got left on his contract of that, plus compensation. And I dare say his wage has gone up as well because they've gone up. It's just not financially doable, I don't think. But the whole coaching team does need an overhaul. So 15 mil, there's I think 15 million was the shortfall or the money that we'll lose this year from a variety of things. But then we also saved between 5 and 10 million in wages from the released players and players who are going to leave, like Jamal Collins, depending on who you listen to. Yeah, I'm surprised about that. I just heard a little rumor about Sellers. So Jonathan says Sellers to Borough. Carrick actually sacked, thought he was doing well. I thought he was doing a really good job, mate. I heard a little whisper about Sellers to Borough. Might be wrong. So Antonio Starry says the clause in Simic is the clause for Simic is in clause was triggered by Red Bull Bragantino this morning. There you go. Yeah, Josh says there, no doubt Buckingham will be aware of a younger talent. I think so, mate. Jamie says 4 weeks since the last game of the season this weekend. Yeah, they were just waiting for the playoffs, mate, when I very clear about that. But we need to get shit announced soon. Pre-season fixtures, the lot. Oh, mate. Pre-season. Jesus, I got to speak to you, Jamie. Have you seen the pre-season stuff? Jesus. Poor again. Right. Last couple. Lewis Watts says Barry Murphy could keep us. Alex Robertson, surely a connection there. Yeah, I would have thought so, mate. You must have coached him. Mate, honestly, right. Barry Murphy's reputation is what it is within football. That if I'm like 22 and under and I'm at Cardiff, I'd be genuinely excited by him coming in because he's a good footballer. This I 100% agree with. The frustration for me, Jamie says, is there are many players who didn't cut it last year when we needed it. Next year is not easy, arguably more challenging, especially physically. Are they up for it? Well, it's not just that, mate, as well, right? It's not only did they not cut the mustard, not only did they not seem up for it a lot of the time, but those same players, some of them will have gone to the club, that they'd like to play at a higher level, or they think they should be playing at a higher level, which is comical when you think about the performances that they put on. Jamie says, that's it. Not good, is it? Very slow from us. Steve Davis Evans says, O'Dowda, superb. Keep. Yeah, that might be right, but I just thought it was timing of it was weird. Everything, but do you know what? This is what I think as well. By the way, and it's only opinion. Why everything takes so long? It's because one, we don't have a football structure, so you're not giving the football people the responsibility to make the football decisions. But then, whatever decisions need to be made, they need to be run up the chain to the chairman, and then the chairman has to go and ask Tan. There's no one within the football club day to day who can just make a decision, and it's just like, do you know what I mean? Like the time difference and everything. So everything just takes like 2 or 3 days at least to do every little decision. There we are. Yeah, look, and we said this all along. There's going to be JT. That is the question, mate, isn't it? That is the question. So let me see. What was I going to say? Right, yeah. Teams are going to try and I think we said this a few weeks ago. Teams are going to try to pick off players on the cheap. Of course they are, because they know that we're going to need to raise funds. They know we've lost a big part of the revenue. So, you know, any young players, whether it's like an Alex Robertson, who's a bit more established, or maybe like a Dylan Lawler or a Joel Colwell, why wouldn't teams try and get them on the cheap? Of course they will. The club's got to be strong. Got to be strong. Dun, dun, dun. Jamie says University of South Wales graduate Buckingham knows the area well. It would be good when it gets City over to Ireland in pre-season. It would be real good. Yeah. So like the other thing as well, right, is it doesn't matter if we just put Pep in charge. If we don't give them the right support staff and address the glaring issues that we've had for several years, I worry for anyone, whether it was Pep, Klopp, Fergie, or anyone else, because the club doesn't have the support system in place for a manager. Yeah, Mitch. I'd love to see Stephen McPhail back at Cardiff City. I would. I would be absolutely mortified if Salic leaves. He'll be the one. He's the one. There's a few which I don't want to leave, but he is the one that we have to keep at all costs because we don't have another like him. We do not have another like him. Rightio. So if the announcement does come tomorrow, then I shall be straight on alive. If not, then we'll have something out tomorrow night. Maybe it'll be a Des Buckingham video. Maybe it'll be something else. We'll work it out. Thursday, there's a members show, a breakfast member show. Don't forget. I think they said they're doing some sort of giveaway. Guess the season ticket host. Right. So what's the competition? The closest guest to the number of season tickets sold by the start of the season and win a ticket to a live event. Let's see. Interesting. So that's going to be Thursday on the breakfast show. So if you remember, make sure you tune in for that 10 o'clock. We'll obviously be back in the night for the flower hour as well. Yeah, I got some stuff up my sleeve, mate. So I've got a video which I've got all scripted out and ready. It's just what I don't want to do. Well, what I didn't have time to do it today. What I don't want to do is record a video on Buckingham tomorrow and then edit it. And then just as I finish editing it, they announce someone else as the manager. And I'll be like, what a waste of a few hours. So I'm kind of holding off on it. But I've got a plan to have a proper deep dive into the sorry, I was just laughing at a text I just I'm gonna have a proper dig dive deep dive into whoever the manager is, and we'll have a real look at them in detail, maybe over a couple of videos, maybe over one longer one. But got some things. We've got some scout reports coming as well as the player rumors start to heat up, and will be all sorts of things. For those who are making a guess in the live chat disappears as soon as I close this, so you have to make your guesses on normal videos, like in the comment section. I apologize, my brain is not working. Maybe this is why I don't do late night lives. No, I appreciate all your time, and it's a weird time in it for Cardiff fans at the end of the day, because we all know what the club needs overall. Rebuild video, that probably will be Friday, I think. Next rebuild video. I'm not sure what episode it is. I can't remember. Did I say it was the injury one? Whichever one it is. There you are. Matthew says competition will be announced on Thursday, and the guesses will need to be put in the chat after the flower hour on Thursday. There you go. Clarification from Mr. Angel there. He'll sort you out. So make sure you check out the flower hour on Thursday night, so you know all the details of the old competition. And plus, like I said, we will have the breakfast show on Thursday morning. They're going to be busy boys on Thursday, aren't they? And tomorrow we'll have a few things. I think I'm hoping we'll have a few things, because I reckon we're going to have an announcement tomorrow. Positive mental attitude. That's what I say. Right then. Oh, thank you very much. I apologize for my my brain fades this evening. I was trying to follow people. There was two people arguing in the live comments. I was trying to follow that to make sure it didn't get out of hand. I was also trying to talk to you guys, and I was trying to Google something. And yeah, look, need producers and moderators. That's what we need. Right. Take care, my friends. Be good. Keep the faith. And we'll see you tomorrow.